Well, you know, the healthcare exchanges have been open for over a month with big problems. Websites not working, confusion over what it's going to cost. We sat down with the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, Dan Loepp, for a candid look at what's happening in Michigan. I bet you can't go anywhere without people asking you about signing up for healthcare exchanges right now. And what are people asking you?
Early this morning in the gym it started, as a matter of fact. People just want to know, they're concerned. I think looking at what's going on the website, I think it has created obviously a bigger fervor. We continue, we've ramped up. We've got almost 400, an additional 400 people on the phones. So we're taking volumes of calls. People want to know what does it mean for me, is the bottom line. Our job is to make this thing work. The politics really don't matter to me. We cover 5 million people in this state, almost 200,000 individuals that we're crosswalking into new coverage. And so our job is to make it work. Hopefully, I think that what we're hearing, and I'm hearing it internally too, that they're making some progress on the website, so we can move on. And we're looking at, I think the government's looking at contingency measures. We've just got to cover people. We've got to get these people covered. That's my job, and that's collectively our job at Blue Cross.
Dan, the biggest confusion seems to be in the individual market.
Right.
People who buy their own health insurance. And those people are saying they're getting cancellation letters, their policies no longer comply with the Obamacare rules, and yet the administration is still saying, oh no, that shouldn't be happening because you were grandfathered in prior to 2010 if you had these policies, and yet those people are getting cancellation notices. What's the reality here of what's happening in that private insurance market?
Nolan, it's a mix. There are grandfathered policy. There's no doubt about it. That may be as much in our book as 30 or 40%. And then we're crosswalking people. We didn't give anybody a cancellation notice because you're crosswalking people from one policy to another. And I think it's important. It's an important distinction, at least the way we did it. I'm sure in the hearings you will find a letter that used the term cancellation. This is simply, we view it as a crosswalk. You're going from a policy that had this coverage. The law says you have to have a policy that has that coverage, so you crosswalk people from here to here. The problem is if you can't get information, which right now people are struggling to get information, it creates the fervor that we have. And what I'm recommending to people is you call us, or call HAP, or call Priority. Call your insurer. They're all in the same boat as we are. You've got extra people online. They know what their coverages are. You can get a lot of information by doing that. Now, ultimately, we got to get this thing to work in DC. There's no doubt about it. I get that. But you can get a lot of information right now, right today, if you pick up the phone and call Blue Cross or any of our competitors.
But as you're crosswalking those policies, is there a sticker shock factor? Are those new policies costing more than the old policies?
It's a total mixed bag, Nolan. Okay. If you are a 60-year-old,
not just yet, but
it may be cheaper. If you're 22 for the same coverage, it may be more expensive. Okay. It's a mixed bag. I will tell you, in Michigan, it's a tad different because we've been the insurer of last resort forever. So we've had we've had the kind of coverages that are now national in Michigan for the last 40 years. So you will not see, I think the average, we're about 15% lower than the average in the country, because of the way we've sort of been set up for the last 35 years, because we were the insurer last resort. Everybody was in our pool. That meant if you were sick, we didn't deny you. You came in, you'd write a policy just like if I was healthy, you and I were getting the same policy. That's what's going on now. That's been going on in Michigan for forever. And so you're not seeing the same types of things that you're hearing about around the country.
My friend here, of course, is discounting the credits that are available to a lot of people that will lower those costs over time. A lot of people were skeptical that companies like Blue Cross would embrace these exchanges and offer products. You guys obviously have decided to do that and are there with some fairly affordable products. I think you have like the second lowest cost product on some of the levels. What was your decision like to participate in this as opposed to sit on the sideline?
Well, a couple of things, Stephen. First of all, we are offering products in every zip code in Michigan. So it doesn't matter where you're at, you can get a Blue Cross product. And we've historically done that. We're going to historically do that. We become a mutual insurance company on January 1,
right?
Which changes from a governance standpoint, but from a business standpoint, we cover people, and we can see a model that Our margins are not very large, but we want to cover people. That's what we do. So it seemed to me like a no-brainer. We've got really talented people in our shop. We're able to price these things that we will make a margin, hopefully somewhere between 0 and 1.5%. All right, but we're as big as we are because we cover 5 million people. You don't need large margins, and that's another thing in the industry. We've never made large margins, so in this new world, we're sort of in the spot we've always been. So we've got, I think, a competitive advantage because we're doing the same things that a lot of people are now learning to do, I would say.
Dan, let me take a step over from healthcare a little bit and talk about the city of Detroit. You're a huge booster of the city,
Right.
and the company has been as well. Now coming off of a mayoral election, but also the city waiting for if they're indeed going to be eligible for bankruptcy protection. Where do you see the future of the city headed where we are right now?
I'm amazed. I'm really bullish. If you look, and I was born and raised on the east side, grown up here, spent the majority of my life here. There's actual stuff going on. Now, granted, there is a broken city government. We all agree with that, and there are problems that have to get fixed. But if you look at what's going on in the private sector, virtually every aspect of the private sector, when you move from the riverfront to down Jefferson, Lafayette Park, Corktown, up to as far north as where Henry Ford Hospital is in the new center area, and now with the new Illich development along Woodward, this is phenomenal. You cannot get an apartment, you can't get a condo, you can't get a parking place. That says something's humming. Now, we've got to deal with crime. There aren't enough cops out there. That needs to happen. There are not enough firemen. There are not enough EMS trucks, okay? We know that. And so we've got to work with the city to help those things move. But I will tell you, our employees are excited about being down here. You walk around Campus Martius, it's a whole heck of a lot different than it was when I started here. And we're already blowing through our first $1 million in the Live Downtown project because people want to live downtown. And the problem is to refund this thing, there's nowhere else to go. And what it's doing, and the real reason we did it was to incentivize the private sector to say, listen, we're going to start this thing, see what it looks like, and then it makes sense for private businesses to build, to reinvest, because people are going to buy the product.
Our thanks to Dan Loepp, and that'll do it for MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Business Leaders for Michigan is dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and economic growth. Learn more at businessleadersformichigan.com. Funding is also provided by Delta.